Welcome back to the Top 6 show. Hit the like button. Get that done right now. I want you to share this across your social media platforms, and everyone just tuning in, make sure you leave us a comment below. I want to know where you're watching from. And if you're in the live chat, you're watching it now live, come back at the end, leave us a comment below. Loads to talk about. The reaction to this week's midweek Premier League games, some big transfer stories, and then there's still more games tonight. And then it's the weekend again, and more football. It's brilliant. We love it. We love it. No breaks. We should just have it. This football should just be 24/7, 12 months a year, no off season. It's brilliant when it's like this. It's a little bit of a joke. I've got a great panel for you tonight. Canadian Cam. Yes, Canadian Cam is back with us again. Canadian Egal is with us. We've got the Englishman here, Henry, next to his English friend, Dan, followed by the Frenchman, Kunle. If you haven't watched the show recently, you won't get the joke. Welcome, everybody, back to the Top 6. Are you all well and good?
Yeah, good.
Doing well.
Huge win yesterday. Huge win.
Cold but good.
Outside of football, I'm glorious. 7 wins in 21. It is what it is.
7 wins in 21. Is that a real stat?
Mm-hmm. We haven't won a Premier League game since the 15th of December, which was against Southampton. We haven't won a home game since the middle of November in the league. But
does Ange ever look at the camera after a defeat?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But just let everyone, the viewers know, because everyone's tuning in. We're going to be talking about Garnacho's potential exit from Man United. Of course, reviewing the games they mentioned. Big talk today of Benjamin Sesko to Arsenal that we'll get everyone's views and opinions on. We're also talking Liverpool, and we know that PSG have offered big money to Mo Salah. Reports today suggest £65 million for 2 years' work in Saudi Arabia has also been offered to the brilliant, the world-class Egyptian forward for Liverpool, as they are now pressured by Arsenal as that points gap closes ahead of what is going to be maybe a difficult weekend. It looks like it's going to be a difficult weekend, this one, for both teams. Tough away game for Liverpool and a really tough home game for Arsenal. And we are going to get into all of that today, plus talk a little bit about the crisis at Chelsea. No win in 5. No EPL win in 5. Yes, I know you beat Morecambe, but come on now. It's having said that, Spurs couldn't beat Tamworth, could they? Not in 90 minutes. So yes, loads to go into, loads to talk about. Some people here, loads to go into, loads to talk about on the show today. I wanted to start, though. I was going to start with Manchester United, actually, because we play later today. I was going to go to Cam, but he's dropped off camera as soon as I do that. But I'll throw it out to you all first. There's a lot of noise coming from Argentina, coming from Italy, about Napoli's pursuit of Alejandro Garnacho. Do you feel this is something that will happen or should happen, Egal?
It depends on the price, Terry. It depends on the price. I think Manchester United need to set a precedent where they're not selling their players for so cheap, and similar to how other clubs are able to sell players for decent money. Because how much wages is Garnacho actually on? He's not one of your higher earners. He's on a reasonable wage. Napoli should be able to pay him close to what he's getting right now, and also still give you a decent transfer fee. So if Manchester United are going to sell him, I would not take the first offer. I would not take the second offer. I would wait it out and see if they're actually willing to give you what you guys deem value in a January window, where they're not going to be able to replace Kvaratskhelia for cheap. You know how much money they got for Kvaratskhelia, so I would try to get as much as possible.
Yeah, of course, the right price is key. Kunle, do you think this is the right move for Man United personnel-wise to say, thank you, Garnacho, but no thank you, Garnacho, sell him and then reinvest? Or could they be making a mistake here, United?
I think if you get any more than 20 million for him, sell now. I don't rate that Garnacho. I think he'll be playing in the Championship in the next 2 years, personally. I don't think he's any good. I think cash in on him now and reinvest in someone that can hit the ground running now. I think for 25 million you can get for better than Garnacho.
That's insane.
Personally, I personally think so, because I don't rate him.
You know they've already rejected 30, right?
That's crazy.
What?
20 million. Come on now.
What 30? They can get more than 30 mil. Yes,
They've
good
been offered
negotiation by Man U. Great negotiation.
38 million has been off so far. That's been rejected. Man United are pushing for a total of we're pushing for 70 million. There's talk it could get as high as 60.
Yeah, sell immediately. Drive him there, Terry, if you can.
Terry, if you're asking about personnel, he's not part of your project. I don't think in the long term. As him, Rashford are two players you can move out and you can bring in new players. You can bring in new culture. You can bring in some players right now that can help you. I'm hearing you guys are linked to the guy from Dortmund, Adeyemi. He's another player with pace and can add more to your team. And right now, you've been looking for balance on your wings. It seems like you have so many players who play on the same wing. Maybe you can invest that money on the right wing now and get you can invest that money again with somebody who your new ownership have decided and done the right scouting, because it seems like your new ownership have done better with transfers than your previous ownership. So I would trust them with the money.
What do you make of this, Cam? I know you're a fan of him. I know you like the player. Do you think United are doing the right thing by looking to sell him? Let's just say it happens. He's sold. Do you believe that's the right move by Man United?
It depends on much, right? Because I said this during the whole Scott saga when we were getting quoted some pretty low prices, and then we got what we should have. Think about what we got for Scott McTominay to the same team, right? Scott was in his last year. He's a senior player. What he's now done for that team, Garnacho. And so I watch Serie A, as you know, like I put my betting slips and so that I'm not just talking shit. I watch Serie A every now and then, especially Napoli and especially Lazio. He'll kill it in that league, and it will be seen as a mistake when we sell him. It won't be a mistake. He will kill it in that league, and he would kill it under Conte because Conte is a very direct style of play. It's very, people talk about him being defensive. He's not really. He has strong structure and shape, and his teams don't get broken down very easily. But the truth is, he'll kill it there, and they know it. So pay for it. That's how, like, we have to get out of this whole thing of we're just going to get rid of players to get rid of. Like, Garnacho to me is a 19-year-old. He's not a problem. I've said this before. There's a list for me that's like need to get rid of, and then there's like cool, we can get rid of when it's time. And I don't think you have to rush to get Garnacho out. But saying all that, if you get 65, 70 million pounds, and then it makes sense, because right now it doesn't feel like he is part of Amarim's system. It doesn't feel like he does fit. So you take that money, you go and get, like we've been saying, we're not buying players potentially for managers anymore, but you're buying them for a system. Well, now you need to go and get some players that fit the system because we don't have a lot of them. So the only way to do that is to sell some players. And we've seen other clubs in the past, some top clubs, City, Liverpool, whatnot, sell players pretty early to make sure they get the funds in so they can navigate PSR. And I think this is our opportunity to do it with Garnacho. If he wants out, if he's not willing to take a contract that, we put in front of him, I know we've been talking to him, then you sell him for around 65, 70 million. That for me will never be a mistake, no matter how well he does in Italy.
Yeah, listen, I get it I really do get it from both sides. I've seen Mark Goldbridge talk today about this goes against the traditions of Man United. We don't sell youngsters, we develop them. There is truth to that claim, but we don't develop youngsters that aren't good enough or don't fit the system. So there becomes a subjective opinion on top of what Mark's saying. Mark's overarching point is right. United have been a club for the better part of 100 years that develops youth or buys players very young and turns them into stars. So if you're someone who thinks Garnacho is amazing, Garnacho is going to become a star, your gut reaction is going to be, this is crazy. If you're someone like Kunle, whether you're a United fan or not, that doesn't rate him, it's 50, 60 million for a player who isn't any good. Get it done. I'm more in Egal's camp here. I think this is a case of he doesn't suit the direction the club's going in. I believe that this was always going to happen. United are moving in a new direction. I think we've tried to recreate a Fergie. We've tried to recreate, let's play with some width. Let's play with pace on the wings, and let's be a really good transition team. We should be able to dominate the sort of teams that are not as good as us at home and things like that. But they've almost tried to recreate what Fergie did. And it's like trying to recreate what Pep's done, trying to recreate what Klopp has done. It's never going to work. No one can recreate what Wenger did. I think you can have adaptations, but you can't recreate it. And Man United have decided to go down a path where we're going to build a squad for a particular style of play that suits this current manager. And hopefully this is sort of the utopia vision of this beyond Amorim as well. The squad works for, and I'm being honest. When I look at Rashford and when I look at Garnacho, I don't think they're bad technicians on the ball. They've got good passes. They're good. They're good on the ball. They've got a good shot. They're good players. They're good to very good. And I think Garnacho will kill it in Italy. The same as I think if Rashford goes Dortmund, if Rashford goes Napoli, if Rashford goes to AC Milan, I think he'll kill it. But for what we're trying to create at Man United, I don't think they work. Then you get the other side of the argument, which is, but how's Cass still here? How's Eriksen here? Why are the worst players? Why is Anthony still here? Because no one's willing to pay money for them. So to get this new era motoring forward, you've got to sell some players. United have been awful at selling players. It's why we typically, for all the failed projects we've had, have run out of cash for that manager because we've not sold individuals early enough for enough funds to reinvest in the squad. If you look, City, all the riches of their owners. Do you know why they got so much money to spend this month? Do you know why they got so much money to spend in the summer? Because of the volumes they've sold players for in the last 2 to 3 years. United and Arsenal, I would say, when it comes to selling, we're atrocious. You guys did it with there was a while ago where you could have got big money for Nketiah. You did it very well with Joe Willock. Joe Willock was perfect. You should be doing that almost every 18 months. There should be a player like that you're getting much more than their value for. Man United should do the same. You see what Chelsea are doing it now. They're looking to sell players that have essentially flopped and barely played for more than they've bought them for. That's how we need to operate. And United fans, this is part of the pain. This is part of the process of fixing over a decade of damage. I'm sad it isn't going to work out for those players. I really am, because I personally like them, but I also look at the way we now play. We need more like Ahmad. Those two, do they have Ahmad's technical ability? No. So I'm not going to sit here and panic and worry and cry about it personally. As long as we get the right amount of money and this January we reinvest it in someone, then I'm all for it, really.
You said something like, well, Gal said something interesting about trusting this regime with money like this. We haven't sold well until this regime. Like, realistically, if it was the old regime with Scott would have got an extension. He would have been here. We would have got to a point where now we can't sell him. We wouldn't have, you know what I mean? We would have been screwed. We'd have listened to the manager. Eric Ten Hag being like, oh, I want him to stay. We'd be like, okay, cool, let's give him a contract. Like, even with Harry Maguire saga that happened, when we refused the 30 M's from West Ham for both him and Scott, because that was insane to offer. It's like, people were like, just get rid of him, just get rid. And now we're seeing like just getting rid of good players isn't always a smart thing to do. So I just want to make sure we don't do that with Garnacho, because just because he doesn't fit our system, and just because he's not super techy doesn't mean, like, people say, oh, he can't beat a man. He can. He just doesn't do it the way you like to. He just doesn't do things the way people like. So I have, again, no problem selling him. I would have no issue with it as long as we get the right funds and we trust this new regime with. I disagree. I don't even think we need. I personally don't know if we need to reinvest in January, Terry. I'm sitting here being like,
hey, Cam. The reason why I wanted to check you on that is just currently right now your winger options are Ahmad. Anthony, Rashford, and
it's Ahmad. No, our winger options are Ahmad, and Ahmad.
So why would you want to reinvest?
No, I'm saying that because unless you're going to get the play, I want to get to a place where we're getting the players we know we want, that we've scouted long term. We technically, with our system, aren't going to be playing with wingers. We'll be playing with wingbacks. We'll be turning wingers into wingbacks. That's what Amorim does. I think Diallo looked best when he's playing in that role, to be completely honest. I have no problem with him as a right wingback because he's looked awesome in the role. And this is what Amorim's done. If you look at all of his past players who played that role for him, they were wingers first. So unless we're going to get the player that we actually want in January, that we know fits the system, save the money until the summer. We're not going anywhere this year. I think we're going to win the Europa League without it, regardless. That's where my head's at. I've thought that since
you're going to win the Europa League.
Sure.
I've said it since the start. That's
Europa League's not easy, bro.
I love the confidence.
I've been consistent since day one that my expectations for this United side, under Eric Ten Hag even, was to win the Europa. None of that is
realistic.
Huh?
Do you think that's
Europa League's not easy? This Liverpool team that's flying right now.
Who would you say?
Henry, they're big bad Man United.
I don't think it's an unrealistic thing. That's like
who would you say the biggest?
It's actually
threat?
not out of the question, to be fair.
Who would you say the biggest threat to you is? Because I'd say it's
you guys.
No, I'd say it's Bilbao.
Nah, hey, bro.
The final
Cam,
is in
come on,
Bilbao
come on.
Stadium as well.
At the end of the day, I know the Spanish teams do extremely well in Europa. I get it. Bilbao's playing well, but at the end of the day, when it comes to these tournaments, you look at the top end talent. I get it. And just sucked, but your talent far overweighs what Bilbao has. So unless you don't bottle it, I think you guys are going far.
Does it though?
It does. Player for player. Lazio's the other big risk. Lazio's the other one, right? So those are the two teams, and if we can't beat them, so be it. But my expectations are still to beat them. That's where I'm at. I'm still saying beat them.
I hear you on that. Look, I think for me, there's a chance of winning it if we continue to the team continues to progress performance-wise as we've seen in the last two games, and we'll see a big indicator in that tonight. But I think we have to add. So for me, I would be disappointed this January because I get long-term Garnacho and Rashford are maybe not what the board of directors, the manager want and need. But to remove them and have no one else and buy no one until the summer, we're left short. They could at least do a job and score some goals. The other day, Garnacho played quite well against Arsenal. The goal was a big part down to him. For me, we're linked to the likes of Bryan Mbeumo. I think he could be someone that would work brilliantly in that kind of 10 role where you drift out wide. He could be amazing in the transition. We are still linked to Victor Gyökeres. And I still wonder, even though it's being played down, I still wonder if we can get rid of Rashford and Garnacho, free up those wages. I wonder if another deal like a Casemiro leaves. I still wonder then if we might not tempt them with there's nothing we have to do with Sporting because all you've got to do is pay the release clause of 80 million euros. And I'm wondering, again, if we sell Garnacho for 70 million and we are not going out and saying, that's pounds. If we're not going out and activating that Gyökeres release clause, what are we doing?
I agree with you.
Didn't you guys have an agreement that you wouldn't?
No, that's already been debunked by about 3 or 4 journalists. It's clubs. Basically, I spoke to Ben Jacobs about that, and I've reached out to a few others, and they just said that clubs never do that because ideally Amorim comes in and it clicks and everybody looks great and everybody looks better, but you'd never put yourself in a situation where if you needed to do something, you now can't because you put it in writing that you can't operate. So I'm not worried about any kind of agreement like that. But, you get rid of Garnacho and Rashford and you bring in Mbeumo and Gyökeres as an example. It doesn't need to be those two before people say, he's going to go Arsenal. He's going to go. Just don't panic over that. We're talking quality of player as opposed to the individuals. Yeah, I don't think it's beyond the reasonable doubt that United couldn't go on to win the Europa League from that point because we suddenly have goal scorers. And I also think it's really key is the age profile we bring in. I feel like we do need those sort of 24, 25, 26-year-olds as well. Some experience. I know we're linked to a few young players, which is fine. But I don't really want to go out and buy an 18, 19-year-old. I want someone that's kind of there or thereabouts already,
I know, but the market for players that are there and thereabouts is a lot higher. So Terry, you're going to be paying a lot of money in the January window for a proven player.
Go get it.
Do it. I would say your team is not really there for pieces that are already established. You need a lot more quality.
Why not?
Because I think Manchester United need to fill so many holes that if they invest heavy in a certain position, it could leave them short in other positions at this moment in time.
Like what? Give me an example, please.
So if you go and invest heavy on a right winger this window and drop what? How much money are you saying? 60, 70 million on a proven player? Who would it be? Kvaratskhelia? He's already gone to PSG.
Okay, so let me give you an example. I hear your point. So if you listen to what I said, if we get the money for Rashford, we want, say, about 40 million, plus the salary, which is 300 grand a week. Remember, salary is more important than transfer fees. If Casemiro goes, which he's heavily linked to, that's £350,000 a week. 40 million for Rashford plus wages. And then if we get, say, 60 for Garnacho plus his wages gone, the release clause for Gyökeres is 70 million. And they're saying that Bryan Mbeumo is around 50 million. So for me, those two players, I'm not saying they're easy to get from their. I'm not saying Mbeumo is easy to convince to join. I'm not saying it's easy to make Brentford say yes. I'm not discounting the difficulty of that. But right now, if you took out Rashford and Garnacho and you put in Bryan Mbeumo and Gyökeres, I don't see how spending the money on them makes Man United weaker.
It doesn't. You're right.
Yeah, so Terry, in that situation, if we get Gyökeres, if that's the player, then yes, that's the player.
That wasn't my point, though. My point is the age and profile of the players. I don't necessarily think it's an issue, because when you need to basically refresh your squad, you're going to still sign a lot of 18-year-olds and younger players with the scope to grow, in addition to some of these other guys you're talking about. So yes, there's going to be some signings like more Lenny Euros and more of these guys, rather than ready-made players like Casemiro anymore going forward.
I hear what you're saying, Egal, but it's one of them markets where if the right player in the right position comes available, you're not going to wait and say, let me get someone up and coming, just because if he's available, he could make a difference. I mean, I know a lot of people criticize him, but let's not disrespect, like, Bruno Fernandez's first 12 months at United was crazy, bro. I know they like to blame it on penalties and stuff like that, but the team weren't necessarily all that good, and he was a difference maker. So if they built around that situation, maybe things could have been better now. So it depends on the player that you invest into, but Man United should be looking to spend big money if the right option is available.
Say Barcola becomes available, PSG say they're going to let him go. He's young, he's a good price.
Who? Sorry,
the PSG left winger.
Yeah, there are certain young players there's certain young players you can't not look at. Chelsea looking at the situation with young Tell, that makes sense because of the level of quality within him. If, for instance, this is hypothetical, so nobody get angry, Lewis Skelly says actually want to leave Arsenal, I'd look at him even though he's young, because there's the potential for a very high talent. But what Man United need is people in that right profile. This here says Gyökeres before the summer is £80 million. Terry. That's 80 million euros. In the summer, it's 67 million euros. Okay, so it's about 70 million pounds and around 52 to 53 million pounds in the summer. Based on what I've read. If you've seen a different article, Richard, send me the link, and I'm always willing to read that. But yeah, we need the right. Listen, a lot of people saying, Terry, there's a lot of if and buts and maybes in what you're saying. Yeah, of course. But I'm responding to a hypothetical, so I can't give you a definitive. I can't respond to a hypothetical point being made about Man United without part of my response also having hypotheticals in it, which are if buts and maybes. The point was Man United get weaker if we spend the money on certain profiles. My argument is
no, that wasn't my point. My point was,
was it not?
You shouldn't just be looking for ready-made players. You should also still be looking for young players.
No, I understand that, but we will over the course of the next 3 to 4 windows. I'm stating right now, this window, I think what we need, if available and if we can get them, sorry for the ifs, people, if you're offended, is we should be looking at players that are 24, 25, 26 years of age, experienced. I like the idea of Mbeumo because he's Premier League. Man United were great at this in the 90s and noughties. Let's go through the Premier League and buy players. We haven't done that enough in the last 11 years. Look at the money we've spent. How many good quality Premier League players have we bought off other clubs? We rarely do it. We've bought Mason Mount. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even think. Who are the other Premier League players that we've gone and bought off other clubs that we've all gone, damn, United got him?
Luke Shaw.
Wan-Bissaka.
Bro, that was a long time ago.
Luke Shaw might not have been in 10 years.
Luke Shaw was 18 years old, but Luke Shaw was 11 years ago. Wan-Bissaka is a good example.
He's been there 11 years.
He came in,
Luke Shaw's been there ages.
He came in the summer of 2014.
Yeah.
Maguire's a great shout, but where I'm gonna challenge it is most people said it's far too much money. I'm saying we haven't signed someone where everyone's gone, for fuck's sake, United got him.
Zaha?
Maybe Aaron what? No, I mean, that was under Fergie, bruv.
No, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was probably the closest you're gonna get to.
Yeah,
because like you look at Sanchez, that was a disaster.
Oh,
how about Terry? You see what you mentioned about the transfers this January? Like with what you said, what is your expectation for those transfers helping you finish at the end of the season? What do you want from that? I'm trying to basically
where it leads us to be in the league and stuff.
Yeah. What like in terms of the players you sign now, what are you looking for them to achieve by the end of the season?
Who are the players we sign though? I need to know who they are before I answer, because it's like if we sign Gyökeres, I expect us to win that Europa League. Yeah. If, for instance, we sign somebody of Weghorst's level on loan, my expectations are different. I need to know who the players are. But if we got Mbeumo and Gyökeres, I would expect a top 8 finish from this point. And because of the quality of goals, the amount of goals they score, and I would expect us to win the Europa League. Absolutely.
I'm surprised you're not looking at Cunha. Because Cunha at the don't there's a disagreement.
He's signed a new deal, bro.
Oh,
no, he hasn't.
He's just Jesus in disguise, man. Forget Cunha, bro. Please don't get hyped.
I can look at it this way: if Cunha doesn't sign the new contract, which at the moment he hasn't, because there is a disagreement between his demands and Wolves's, Man United, Cunha comfortably starts for Man United. He's better than Garnacho. In my opinion, he probably would be their best forward. He's Premier League proven and got double digits for goals this season, and he would cost less than Mbeumo. And he's younger and more versatile.
I understand that. I like him. He's a good example. He's someone that I wouldn't like kick off about and say, "Get out of my club." Do you get what I mean? Like he's a good player, but yeah, I feel like I just don't know. That's what. I'd like it. I mean, this is the thing. You could send me a list of players that are good enough. I'm not going to say no to them. If it was Cunha and Mbeumo, I'm quite happy with that as a January window as well as an example. So I just gave 2 examples.
But to be honest,
my head, but yeah,
I think why we wouldn't I think when we're looking at anybody, all United fans now, the one thing we can all agree on, which is crazy, is we all can look at our team and see what we need. It's pretty clear at this stage. And I think as much as I would love Cunha, our midfield is starting to come together. You're starting to see it work. You're starting to see Bruno, Mainu, Ugarte. It's all kind of working in that sense. What we really need are those wing backs. Delo is, yes, he destroyed Trent, but that was it. Since we've seen Emerin come in, he has not worked. I love it. I think I don't love the kid. I have no beef with him. I love his passion for the team. He seems to be one of the players who the badge isn't too heavy for. He's never he's never done anything wrong for me to be get him out just because he's had bad performances. He doesn't seem to fit this system. So that leaves us with a big problem because we're trying to be okay, well, you play over on left wing back. He's not even supposed to be there. He's more of he's a right back in general. That's where he's supposed to play. He's not good enough to play the right wing back position. He's not good enough to play the right center back position. So we've shoehorned him in the wrong position. So when I look at our team, what's a glaring piece that we need? That left wing back position, that left back, that left forward, whatever it might be.
You know who I think you'll sign?
And then we have to look at goal scoring. We don't have any, at the end of the day, Xerxes came out, looked great, held up the ball, all that. But we know in front of the net, what's the man going to do? Pass, right? He's not clinical. He doesn't look to score the ball. When he does, he's not the best at it. I'm not trying to dump on the guy, but he doesn't fit what we need when it comes to a striker. So the next thing is we create tons of chances now. We have had great possession. The team's looking better. We got nobody who's putting it in behind the net. So that's the striker. So I look at our team and I look at those 2 players that we really need. And then I go, cool, I would like a Cunha. I would like an Mbeumo, but it's not the highest for me on the priority list before I start looking at those kind of luxury signings. I think Acuna would be a luxury signing.
I don't think Gyökeres is moving this window, though.
I don't either, but I'm saying that Terry asked a few weeks ago, who would you take? And that was my number 1 player.
Yeah, and the thing is, I will be honest, and it is because I'm a bit disgruntled with it all the time. People ask you who you would like and what you like to happen. You mention someone, but that won't happen. But you ask me who I'd like.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Who I want the centre forward from Leyton Orient because I know we can get him. I'm going to give you names that I want. And the thing is, if we don't get players of that level or in and around it, then I'd rather us wait until the summer until they were available. But I get this just a gut feeling. I don't see us selling Rashfords and Garnachos for the money we're talking about if we don't have a plan and we're not confident to bring in good quality replacements in now. I just don't see why the club would do it. It doesn't make any sense. Some will say, well, that's Man United for you. Maybe it will be, and we will see. But I would expect there to be a plan of... And what I like about Man United at the moment is a lot of the news about players maybe leaving is none of it's coming from us. Even the people we're linked to. I spoke to about 3 or 4 journalists this last week. You heard anything about United, and they're saying it's getting harder and harder and harder to get information out of the football club. And I really like that as a United fan because normally we leak like a broken fucking fridge. So, yeah, look, it's good news. A few super chats here I want to go to. First one says, Terry, Chelsea, Evan Kunku for 60 million. Would you want United to spend that on him? He's still a top player, just didn't work out. I like him. I wouldn't personally be disappointed. I just think that he's in a situation where he can't get into the first team because you've got Palmer in the side. He can't play the 9 role. However, the other players I would prefer ahead of him, Brian and Mbeumo, I would prefer. I mean, Cunha, I know he says he's a 9, but I always see him a bit deeper than that, to be fair. I see him as more of a second striker, as an example. Of course, I would prefer Gyökeres if we're talking about attackers. So I wouldn't be fuming with this decision, but it's not one that I would. He's not top on my priority list, but good question. Why would United buy up-and-coming players? They're more risky than buying established players. United already have an under-18s project going on. They've already got 6 to 7 players. You'll see them in 3 years.
Nobody's saying buy 18-year-olds. 23 and under is considered up and coming still, if I'm not mistaken. They're not proven players.
Do you guys
that's
think
what I'm talking about?
I can see Man United signing Porro from us, who can play left wing back.
When?
In the summer, I think he could.
Okay.
Not this window, but I definitely think the fact that we've signed Archie Gray, whose predominant position is a right back, and Jed Spence is not being sold, and you need a wing back. He can play both sides, and he's one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league. Who has played? I think he has played under Ruben, hasn't he?
Yeah, you're right.
I assume so. That could happen. Look, I'm up for. I want to mix at the football club. Depends on who the talent is. Like Lenny Yoro makes sense because of the hype and the quality that's around him. But we certainly need some established players as well. Hell no more business with Chelsea after Mount. I hear you on that. I do. We're a cup team. It's not crazy that we can win. Is anyone saying we can't win the Europa? They're the same people that said we wouldn't win the FA Cup last year or we wouldn't win the League Cup the year before. I'm not guaranteeing that we will. I'm stating if we sign those players, I demand that we would. Those two things are not the same. If you think they are, touch grass. What happened to Chelsea being... Okay, we'll come back to the other talk in a minute. If it's not specific to United, we'll come back to it. Sacrifice needs to be made to make a statement. I agree, Ronnie. I agree. Peace. I'm an Arsenal fan. I have only one wish. Research the name Yehun Judah. I thought for a minute there, because I saw Judah at the end, that we're going to be talking about Sol Campbell again. Because Judah is always connected to his name. I'll have a little research there, my friend, on that one. I will. Thank you for the super chat as well, brother. It means a great deal to us here. We'll have a little look. That's you, though, isn't it? Going by your name, is that your music? Is that you, bruv? Is that you?
Yeah.
Are you a musician?
That looks like an album cover as his picture.
All right, well, DM me I'll have a little listen, bro. It better be good. If it's shit, I'm going to tell everyone it's shit. It better be good, you know. It better be good. It doesn't happen anymore. Do you remember? I used to go to this Tesco's near me, and I'd be getting my food. This young lad, he was sitting behind the counter, and he was staring at me really shifty. I was going, what's he want? He said, excuse me. And he goes, I've released an album. Would you like to listen to it? What? And he I saw him do it. I sat and watched for a minute. Everybody was putting a white label disc just in their bags and listen when they get home. And I thought, that's a good little marketing technique. You might serve 300 or 400 people. They listen, they check it out. And I was like, yeah, but that was back in the day of putting CDs in people's bags, you know. It must be different. Must be a QR code now people send, I suppose. Frimpong at right wing back. Yeah, go on. I'll have a bit of that. I'll have a bit of Frimpong. Speaking of football, how do you think United will get on tonight, Dan? I haven't heard much from you today. So how do you think United will get on tonight?
I think they'll be all right. I feel like United, they've got to be turning a corner sooner rather than later. They've got to start building on some of the results they've had in bigger games for them this season and start sort of taking that to the smaller teams. So you got Southampton.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Southampton. Look, their manager is almost favourite to go again. I feel like they're not good enough to be in the Premier League. Manchester United, hopefully for themselves, will find a bit of form and put it together for a game against Southampton. So it should be fine.
I think you'll win 3-4-0 tonight. I think you'll have a good performance. I think there'll be a massive high after knocking Arsenal out of the FA Cup. And I can just see Bruno and Ahmad destroying Southampton. I think, aren't they statistically the second or third worst Premier League side of all time or something on their defensive numbers? Like, aren't they on what is it? Who's the rate? Is it Sheffield United? They've got the most goals they've gone down with. It was like 105. I think
it's got to be Sheffield United, Derby, probably one other team. And
what was that team that was it Mick McCarthy managed that?
Derby, right?
Yeah. I think the Southampton team I just don't think there needs to be like a little mini league between the Championship and the Premier League for the Norwiches, the Southampton.
There should be like a petition mid-season.
Yeah, no, but like an actual
should we include the relegation teams in the playoffs?
Yeah, like they should. The playoffs should be a bit better, in my opinion, than just a couple of games. Like they should be like a little 4 or 5 game tournament because the quality between those teams, like Southampton, right now, to be honest, it's just the Championship side. Man United right now are in one of the worst runs of form throughout this season we've seen, and they will still comfortably put, in my opinion, tonight 3 or 4 goals past Southampton. even with no wide players other than Ahmad.
Yeah, like Southampton are rubbish, man. Ever since I saw that Liverpool game
under their new manager,
got relegated from there.
Nah, like
They
had that manager that's like, it's who we are. Ange's like 2.0, who I think they conceded something like 9 goals from giving it away at the back. They've now brought in a bit more stability. He hasn't won a game yet. And it's at Old Trafford where Man United are on a massive high.
Is it true their new manager's first game was a 5-0 defeat?
Yeah, it was against us.
Yeah, I think
your last win, right?
I think what Amarim said is kind of the most important thing. Is this is a bigger test than the Arsenal game, bigger test than the Liverpool. Like the games where we had no pressure, we showed up. There is a ton of pressure on these players to show up, and
for this game.
Yes, because you lose this game, all the other ones don't. This is what happened after
it's the best game to play after Arsenal.
I can't remember who we lost to right after it was Bournemouth or something. Like literally, you beat City and then you go on and lose to Bournemouth when you were just about to claw back into that top 6 conversation. Again, the league is so tight right now when you look at like the gap between where we're at and getting back into like top 6 conversation. You can't lose this game. You cannot lose this game. This is where the pressure is. Like you can lose. If we lost to Arsenal, no one's saying shit. If you lost to City, no one's saying anything. Liverpool, if we got destroyed, no one is saying anything. They're all like, yeah, of course, that was supposed to happen. We lose to Southampton. Oh my God. Like the news will just be.
There is certainly pressure on this game because of the performance levels in the last 2 games. There is a huge expectation on us to win. And I actually feel more nervous tonight than I did the last 2 matches. Not because and I'll tell you as to why though, Kunle, not because it's Southampton, because it's the ramifications if we don't get the performance, if we don't get a comfortable win, if we don't score some goals. I think it knocks the confidence of the players. I think the media jumps on it. We've had 2 weeks with very few negative stories about the club, a few weeks where no one's really being attacked. And I want that positivity to continue. The problem we have is if we nick a late 1-0, the knives are out again. What we need tonight is a very good performance, and we need to score 3 or 4 goals, hopefully concede none, and you walk away from it and say, okay, well, then we know, and then do it again at the weekend, because then we know that the way we performed against Liverpool, the way we performed against Arsenal, wasn't just about the players getting up for those big games. That's the accusation at the moment. And as a Man United fan, I want us to rid that. I want that accusation gone, personally.
I hear it.
One thing
hold on 1 second, Cam. 1 second.
Yeah.
Is that pressure more of a fans thing rather than the players? Because I don't think the players are feeling that pressure going into this game.
Well, the coach put that pressure on them. The coach said it. It was like, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, Amarim came out and said, I'm about to find out a lot about this team. He actually is the one who said it. Like, he's the one who's called it out and been like, y'all had no pressure. Go out there and perform. So when a coach, which I love it, I love that he did that. He put it out there and told the world, my expectations of my players is to go out there and show who they really are, which means go and destroy Southampton. Otherwise, you're telling me who you are. So that is pressure put onto the players by the manager, and it's the right type of pressure.
You've only won 1.
Bro, let me just say this. You are not going to struggle in this game. Southampton are the kind of team that will play into your hands, and you're at home. You should beat them like 3-0 or 3-1 or something like that. Worst case scenario, you concede 1 goal and then you end up smacking them.
Egal, what you're missing here is what you just said. Should be beating them that easily. Man United have played a number of teams in the last 2.5 years who have been in and around as bad as Southampton. Maybe don't concede as bad. Last year, all 3 relegation teams, home and away, outplayed us, had more of the ball, peppered our goal, as an example. Earlier on this season, we did beat Southampton by a good scoreline, but not after the first 35 minutes of being absolutely peppered.
The mistake they made.
But yeah, and it made a mistake which led to a goal. So for me, listen, everything you've said is what it should be, but United haven't been that team for a long time. So from our point of view, it's not about, we beat Southampton if we did. It's about the players. The manager has said it. And I know you guys don't watch these press conferences or read Man United news, so that's fair. That's what we're here for. He was fuming after the Liverpool game. He said, because if my players worked that hard in the previous 3 or 4 matches, we wouldn't have lost them all. So that's why I am a bit nervous tonight, because if they're not running hard today, we've got an even bigger problem they already have. It's players that are only up for it when it matters in terms of the size of the match. And that means you've got a bigger squad issue than we thought. which means it's going to take even longer to fucking fix. So for me, it's not about Southampton. It's more about us and what we do. But I'm confident we'll win, but I am a little nervous. I'm scared of a bad performance. I really am scared of a bad performance.
We need to get out of this game with no individual errors. Like, we have to tell. Like, this is we have seen all the games that we dropped points. Basically, somebody did something boneheaded, and we just need that to go. For me, it's forgivable at this point because we're learning a system. So you're going to see it. It's going to happen. He's even said it. The players are thinking too much. The point of this game is to see the progress the system's making, and are the players comprehending it? Because against a trash Southampton team, it should be easy. So I think that's where the pressure comes from. If we watch this game, and Terry said, and we're down, and like we're getting destroyed for 20, 30 minutes of the game, we're all going to sit there and be like, God, we have a bigger problem. But if we show up, I'm not going to come on stream after and be like, yeah, we beat Southampton. I'll be like, you did your job. I'm so happy to see the system's working. Next. So that's where the pressure comes from, because I don't want to be on stream after talking about, we're still not there.
So that's what I'm saying. See, this is what I'm saying, Cam. So there's no, I don't think there's many, for me personally, I don't know about the rest of the panel. For me personally, there's no scenario that any Man United fan can convince me that going into play Southampton this season is a high pressure game. If you're telling me you're nervous about the game because of what's happened before, I can definitely accept that. But there's no pressure on United going into this game. I don't think the players are feeling any of the pressure. They're confident. They've got 2 good performances against 2 major rivals. They're going to carry that confidence and momentum into this game. And I think they're going to walk it, personally. I don't think there's anything to worry about.
I pray that you're right. Again, I'm only going off what the players... It was 3 of our players said after the Liverpool game, we found it hard at Old Trafford, no matter who we played this year. Because of the expectation on performances, we found it difficult. So there's all these little bits of information that I do think are important. But yeah, listen, I expect us to win. I expect us to go out there and get the job done. I absolutely do. Viewers, I'd love to get your score predictions on this game in the live chat right now. Terry, don't try to let my fellow Gooner deceive you. The question is deceive you. The question is Sporting wingers better than Garnacho? If no, then give the manager time with him. It's not about being, when you say better, I find that to be a really vague phrase. Is it better? You know, it's I might be better at making cakes than Kunle is at cooking a fry up, but they're different things, right? So is Garnacho a better football player in the system that Ruben Amorim is trying to instill versus the Sporting players? That's a very different question. It is. I'll give you an example. There are some centre backs. You stick them in a back 3 in a team that plays low blocks, they look amazing. You stick them in an Arsenal team where their centre backs are on the halfway line, where they have to run, where they have to have recovery pace, and they're left and exposed 1-on-1 many times in the game. It's a different scenario for those defenders. We saw it at Man United. Maguire, as soon as he came into our club and was exposed in like high line back 4s where he was doing a lot of 1-on-1 defending, he wasn't as good as in a compact team in a back 3. So for me, I think your question is a little too vague to be able to answer. But do I think he's as good as those guys? I'm gonna sit on the fence here and say I'm gonna trust Ruben Amorim. And I'm going to trust the professionals that I've asked to come into my football club. I'm going to ask it. By the way, you know, clubs coming in for him who plays like Ruben Amorim's teams. The clubs that are looking at him, sit back, are compact, like to play on the counter. So there's something in that for me personally. So it's not about whether I think that he's better or not. But there we go. Are Spurs in a relegation battle, Henry?
I'm not saying we're in a relegation battle, but my argument would be, would you consider Everton Football Club to be in a relegation battle?
Every season.
Okay, so if they beat us at the weekend, they're only 3 points behind us.
Are you home or away for that game?
At Goodison Park. And let me just, I don't know if you want to move on Spurs. I just want to say one thing.
We might as well.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored in 16 games. Whack that guy in your FBL team, because you can best believe he will bag against us. Because we are
allowed to say yes, Henry. You do know that.
Sorry?
You're allowed to say you are in a relegation, but all this dancing you're doing around is not necessary. Just say yeah.
I don't think we are in a relegation battle, but we are creeping towards it. So, okay, we may be. I don't think yesterday was our worst performance. I thought I thought we defended really well for 30 minutes. I thought fans are coming out and absolutely shitting on Kingsky. I don't think that's the right thing to do right now. It was his Premier League debut.
He did have howlers.
Yeah, but he's 21 on his Premier League debut with a back four of Gray and Dragusin as your centre-back pairing. Like,
so that's why he had howler yesterday.
No, it's not. And I'm not excusing his howler, but saying he's an absolute dreadful goalkeeper and saying he's this and that based off of one howler against Arsenal, I think is a little bit overboard. I think I was happy that Ange made some changes at half time, and we did go a little bit too attacking. But the two players for me, the two players that really impressed me and two players I thought were absolutely dog shit again, Bissouma, right? What is he doing for the second goal? It's a simple, you and Jaws were going at it earlier in the chat, right? It's a simple 1-2 pass to play through Jed Spence, who we know could get down that left-hand side because he already did it in the first half, to play that cross into Solanke, and Gabriel makes a worldy touch to clear it. If he plays that pass, that entire goal does not play out and we don't concede. Okay, he gets tackled, makes a good challenge. Odegaard plays it through. The positioning of Porro in this system, he is no longer a right back. He's a midfielder. Dragusin has to get across and close him down. He doesn't. Trossard is allowed the shot, and Kingsky, okay, he makes a bit of a howler. I'm not blaming, a lot of the players on yesterday's defeat for looking at the season as a whole, but that was our 11th defeat in 21 games, and we've won 7. That is relegation form. We've won 1 in 9 Premier League games. Now, forget the Arsenal game because we was expected to lose. I thought we'd put up a better fight. I thought we defended well for 30 minutes. Arsenal had a really, really good second half where they should have, if they had a striker, should have scored an extra 2 or 3 goals. If Kulusevski puts that chance away in the first half, we could have been 2-0 up. Arsenal, had the better chances for me. But to only have won 7, a win percentage of 33%. We could talk about the injuries as much as we want. That is fucking unacceptable. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, that is relegation form. And we're level that now on points with Crystal Palace. We're now below West Ham, who have just sacked their manager. Why is Ange Postecoglou not getting anywhere near as much heat as other managers are? And the answer, because Terry already said this backstage, is because the scorelines in our defeats, other than the Liverpool game, aren't horrendous. 3-2 defeat against Galatasaray. Osimhen should have had 4 or 5 goals. Narrowly lost to Chelsea 4-3. Narrowly lost to Arsenal home and away. But still, look at the stats. Look at the stats. We're fucking 14th. I don't understand what I understand sacking him and bringing in Ryan Mason's going to go backwards. But if Everton win against us on Sunday at Goodison Park, they're 3 points below us. Everton, who have scored 15 league goals. Like, from a rival perspective, I'll just throw the question out to the panel. At what point do we say, okay, we need to have a change here? You can give him the cups. If we're going to give him the FA Cup and the League Cup and the Europa League, by all means. But if we're still sitting here after we've been dunked out of every single cup and we're 14th, then what's the answer going to be then?
Can I just say as well, right? Just very, very quickly on this. 24 points. So you're currently 8 points above the relegation drop zone, which is 2-3 defeats as an example. But if you do lose this weekend, and let's just say, for instance, Wolves were able to get a result against Chelsea, they're away, they're the problem. Let's say Wolves win, say Ipswich win, and Everton beat you, you would then only be 4 points away from the drop zone. Throwing that out to the panel, I know a lot of Spurs fans blame their board, and I get blaming the board, but to Henry's point, how untenable is the position if by the end of this weekend, they're potentially 4 points above the relegation zone?
So I personally think, I stand by this, it's a tough one, but if Ange, you have to keep with Ange because of how far he is in certain competitions. They made this mistake before where they let a manager go right before he was potentially going to win you something. I think for Spurs, what success looks like is winning any trophy. If all the things that Henry said happen and they don't win anything, then you would get rid of him. I think Spurs truthfully have a Glazers problem the same way we have for years. Like Nuno was their manager at one point, was he not? Where's Nuno now?
Cam, do you think we'll beat Liverpool away in the League Cup semi-final?
I as a fan of a team who recently did two unthinkable, people did not think we were going to beat City to win the League Cup, the FA Cup. I mean the FA Cup. People didn't think we were going to beat Liverpool on the way to the League Cup and in the FA Cup. Like anything can happen in these cup tournaments. I'm not going to say I think you're going to win or lose because it's so tough when you get this far that anything.
But you've got a
happen.
mentality in the dressing room, Cam. Your players have won the FA Cup and the League Cup. No one in that dressing room, even Son's been there a decade.
I understand, but your manager has won multiple trophies, right? So he should be able to.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying here. This is the thing. I'm just saying again. I'm trying to be super objective because I'm not a Spurs fan, and I get what you're saying. But
okay, if you're Man United right now, and you were in a very similar position, but if you beat Southampton, you go above us tonight, right? You've sacked your manager because of the situation you've been in. West Ham have sacked their manager. Why is the heat not on Ange right now? So the hierarchy of Tottenham have come out and said they're going to back him. If they're going to back him, go and bring in 2 or 3 players this window then.
But bro, we have different expectations, to be honest. Like if I'm going to be completely honest with you, like with United, we let Eric Ten Hag go after he won 2 trophies because the expectations changed and it was no longer tenable to just be in these competitions and winning them. With you guys, you haven't won. You have to win it. You have to win trophies. Nobody, in my opinion, you guys shouldn't care how it happens.
So they do. Can I want to throw this in though, right? So I know they've got to win trophies, but by the end of this weekend, they could be 4 points above the relegation zone.
But I don't think they'll stay there.
Maybe they won't. But I always worry about the bigger teams when they're down near the bottom. And what I mean by that is this: most of those Spurs players were not bought to Tottenham Hotspur with the ideals and thought process of being in relegation fights. It's a different mentality. I think most players that go to Leicester and clubs of that level and ilk, they know we're in for a fight this year. I think you prepare for it, you're mentally ready. There's a fundamental. You ever watch that great film Trading Places, and you take the poor guy on the street, Eddie Murphy, and the rich guy who's Dan Aykroyd. In those first moments of adversity, and that's a comedy, but I still think this works in life. It's a lot easier to adjust to being in a good situation than it is to being in a bad one. And I don't know if these Spurs players are built for it. I don't know if they're mentally ready, and I don't think they'll go down. But I'm not saying they will. But at the same time, being that low in your league position still has to be a very, very huge and key indicator, because the likelihood is, generally speaking, teams that are down near the bottom over a period of time are less likely to win trophies regularly than the teams at the top. So you may have an anomaly season where a team comes 14th and it wins the League Cup. And that's amazing to win the League Cup. But if you as a league team, and by the way, Ange has been sinking like the Titanic since November 2023. You look at his win ratio since then, it's horrendous.
31.6%.
It's apparently the worst in Tottenham's history.
31% win ratio. So he's only winning 3 out of every 10 games for well over a year now. The trajectory says, league-wise, where he's at now is what they're heading towards, and maybe worse. Winning a trophy, yes, it will be a great day out. But I think when you are one of the richest clubs in the world, in the top 10 for income, who spend hundreds of millions on transfers, hundreds of millions on salary, just saying, well, we're going to win a trophy isn't enough. You want to still aim for those trophies, but you've got to be progressing in the league at the same time. Surely.
Do you know our wage bill? Just one last thing before you come in. Our wage bill is now lower than West Ham's. So when you look at Tottenham as a brand, everything is, I would say, is prestige as a brand. The stadium, right? The F1 track, all these concerts. But then when you look at the pitch,
these what? Concerts?
Big concert. Yeah.
Well, like at the moment, the
concerts
project
20 million
is
more
to buy young players develop them and sell them on. Like Bergvall and Gray for me Gray for me has the ability to be one of the best players in the Premier League in 5-6 years' time. He won't
be at Spurs, mate.
Yeah,
He ain't gonna be at Spurs.
He won't be at Spurs. If you look at someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's got the potential to be one of the best fullbacks in the league, there's a very high chance he'll still be at Arsenal in 5 years. Same as Cole Palmer. He'll still be at Chelsea. Is Graham Bergvall going to be at Spurs or Porro or Udogie? Man United must be thinking, we need full wing-backs, not fullbacks. Let's go and get Udogie and Porro. Have you got both of those fullbacks?
Udogie. Why would they want Udogie, bro?
Because he'd be
He's
perfect.
all right. He's not bad, couldn't he?
He's all right.
I do not want Udogie.
No, but he's very attacking, and if you get a good DM in that system and a good centre back, he'd be fine.
But Henry, one thing about our system is we do need our wing backs. Like this is why Ruben Amorim's so hard to recruit for. Our wing backs have to be able to track back and defend.
Did Amorim not have Porro at Sporting, or did they miss each other?
No, he did.
I think he did. So I'm pretty sure that it'll be all right with him.
It's a different league. I don't think I don't like. I hear this and I hear when people say that, but like,
Is Porro not capable of playing in the Premier League?
I don't think he's capable of defending to the level that he would potentially need to.
What level? You're both literally bottom of mid-table.
Yeah, but we're not. That's cute.
What level are we doing here? Come on.
But we're not talking about the level we're trying to stay at. It's the level we're trying to be at.
Pedro Porro is absolutely capable of playing for Manchester United right now with where they are.
But I don't care about that. I'm not talking.
But Dan, does that improve them? That's what the question.
I want to stay there.
You know what? You guys have been beating around the bush with the whole Ange thing. The reason why Ange is not really they're not as angry is because they're so inconsistent. They will have a good performance versus Liverpool, then lose to Crystal Palace. They'll have a good performance versus Man City, lose to thing. It would almost be better if they could have those good performances versus the worst teams and have those poor performances versus the bad teams. Because
I think that helps his case. It helps his case because what
Ange's big scalps gives these fans hope that there's still something to build off of. But these fans at the stadium, performances. One second, Henry. Let me just get my point across. These poor performances that you have versus these other teams, and the predictable ways that you're losing versus the Ipswiches and the Crystal Palaces. Some fans might feel like you get some better players. You don't have those poor performances, and you finish some of those chances. I've seen it at my club. I've seen it at many other clubs. You guys are having okay performances. The results are not happening. And that's where sometimes the manager gets a pass, but it's happening too often where I personally think Ange is not the right guy. I think he's quite stubborn. I think there is some issues you do have.
Yeah, no,
I understand why fans believe in him.
But the narrative at the stadium is and me and Terry have had this discussion loads of times. The fans just want to see an attractive style of football, right? And the ownership, the priority is as many revenue streams into that club as possible. It's not to win silverware, which is why when Jose Mourinho got into a final, the reason he was sacked was because if the hypothetical outcome was he was to lift that league cup, his bonus would have been in the north of £5 to £10 million.
So, can I ask you a question? Sorry, the match-going fans are asking for that. Some obviously are not, like yourself. What is your opinion on why so many Spurs fans are just happy as long as the football's pretty? Why do they think that way?
Because my personal opinion is the culture of the football club has changed because of ENIC. Like you now, there was a thing on Twitter the other day. They are planning to bring in that the tracksuits won't be allowed at the stadium. So they're now catering to.
Slow down again because you lost us. Tracksuits for whom?
You won't be allowed in the stadium wearing like a tracksuit unless it's
you're lying. Why?
For fans?
No, that's crazy.
Because they changed.
There's a fan dress code.
It doesn't fit the image of Tottenham.
If you can find it,
there are fan dress codes in a lot of hospitality stands in the Prem.
Like you can't go into the boxes
not everywhere
wearing a tracksuit.
No, but Spurs are trying to make their whole stadium hospitality level. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do.
Why though?
Hang on. So Spurs Stadium has a smart casual dress code. That means I don't mean it disrespectfully. I watch a lot of Expressions' content, and he ain't smart casual. He's dressed like normal. I would call it normal, right? So they're not obviously enforcing that. I'm only using expressions because I've watched his content. I see him in a stadium and he'll have like a big puffer jacket on. I've seen him in jogging bottoms. So it doesn't sound like they're not enforcing. Because you can't have ripped jeans.
No, the plan down the line is to start enforcing that because he wants to have a more of a upper class sort of brand. The whole idea is about the brand. When the naming rights come in, right, a lot of things are going to change.
What you're not doing though, sorry, I'm going to interject again. What you're not doing, because you speak to more Spurs fans than the rest of us, you are not telling me why. And the reason why I don't want to hear your opinion on why. Surely you've asked some of your fellow Tottenham fans, why are you happy with this? What reasons have you been given? You must have asked this question.
Okay, the main reason, whenever I ask, is why does the club not want to win silverware? The answer I get 99% of the times is I'm just happy to compete. Look at the stadium we're playing in.
Wait, people have actually given you that answer. Like,
me and Sean from the Spurs Talk Show have walked around and had a chat with loads of different fans. Because I won't go anymore because I just refuse to. And the main thing is, but we're competing. Look at the stadium in. Look what Levy's done for the club. Okay, we've got a fucking state-of-the-art ground, but the biggest star we've had in the ground is bloody Beyonce.
Well, you know, Brendan.
Henry.
Yeah, concerts. Yeah.
Henry, I think it's a situation where some fans are content with the situation of just being.
Yeah, but why, Egal? Why are they
Egal, I think there's a big.
I understand your frustration, but right now you also have to look at what you're doing. You're in the middle of a rebuild. You got rid of your best player. What? You're shifting out a lot of players. Your team has an injury crisis this season. I think a portion of your fan base have basically written off the Premier League and they're just looking at the cups. That's the Europa League and that's the FA Cup, League Cup. So if you guys are only focused on the cup, I know you lost the North London Derby, but some fans might just say, you know what, forget about the league. We're not going to do nothing in the league this season.
I hear that, but if we don't win a cup and we're sitting 15th, what's the debate?
Then we can have a different conversation. But at this moment in time, you're in a semi-final of a cup. You're doing well in the Europa League, and if some fans understand your situation and they say, you know what, it's an uphill battle to get back higher up in the league. We'll see where we finish in the league. Let's just focus on the other trophies. I understand it.
You know what it is, Henry? Like I think Ange is a he knows how to play football. His teams play football. I think the biggest issue with Ange is he thinks he can play his style irregardless of which players are on the pitch, and he refuses to figure out a way to adapt when he doesn't have those players available. Like if he has all the right profiles, his team would look crazy. Like he knows how to teach people how to play ball. He knows that, but the issue is he doesn't have the facilities. So the situation right now is I don't think you're going to win anything this season because of his decision making. I think he's a good coach, but because of your decision making and how much a section of the fan base has overrated your squad, which is why I think that a lot of those situations are coming now because the players that you thought were better than this person and better than that person aren't actually that because you didn't give time for it to breathe.
Do you think they're overrated?
It's in a weird situation.
Huh? Do you think they're overrated or it's poor coaching? Because I would argue,
bro, you overrate the players.
Let Henry finish asking the question.
Do you think Spurs players are overrated or they are poorly coached?
I think overrated, and we can go through them if you want to. But I think
under the right manager, Van de Ven and Romero would be a very good centre back pairing.
But they're not there for you. They've been injured. They're injured though.
Yeah, but even
when had them, you'd be in a better
played, even when they have played, we couldn't beat Leicester. We lost to Ipswich. We lost to Palace. We lost to Brighton.
I don't think you can do it. I think there are some players that are as good as Spurs fans say they are, and there'll be some that are not. I'll give you an example of two that are not. Bissouma and James Maddison. I always feel, and I know systems are important.
Cooked with that.
Bissouma and James Maddison. By the way, Bissouma's a player I wanted at Man United. I rated him. Turned out that my eyes deceived me. But there's something that I think we should always look at. You know, when there's debates about how good or bad a player is, it's always so subjective based on what I like. I think looking at who signs a player and or who's chasing them is a massive indicator in their qualities or what they have to offer as an example. So for years, people passed on Maddison. Bissouma was available for 25 million and no one else was sniffing. And I look at Bruno Fernandes as an example. When Man United signed him, I mean, if you look at the 12 months prior, but that was what people said at the end when United had won the race. But if you go back and look from the summer right through to when we got him, multiple other clubs linked. And I remember being reported in the summer that he was starting to tell his agents, I really want to push for this Man United role, this role at Man United and wanting to move on. So there's people linked to him. When you look for now at Rashford, people can like him or loathe him, but Dortmund, AC Milan, Barcelona are all sniffing around him and trying to convince him to join. That objectively means there's a good player in there, right? If, for instance, the only offers he had were in the MLS, if the only offers he had were in, I don't know, mid-table Portuguese teams, the claims from people that he's not a good football player would be objectively right. And I've seen this happen to a lot of players that get hyped up for years. They eventually leave the club they're at, like Crystal Palace, and they end up doing nothing. And for me, I think there's something in the fact in Bissouma and Maddison, no one else was too interested in them, especially at the price they cost. And I think you're seeing two players that are what I would consider to be aesthetic merchants. They are brilliant on the eye. They can look brilliant being bad because they look good on the eye, and they're not very good Premier League football players. They're good, but they're not very good.
I would argue, I think you're right on those two, but I would argue in around the right coach, around the right system, Gray, Bergvall, Bentancur, Udogie, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, and Solanke would succeed. Son, huge question marks right now if he's on the decline. Johnson,
He's just old. That's all.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson, I think he's far too inconsistent. Vicario, like if, for instance, if you had this squad now in a Conte system and we went to a 3 at the back with Dragusin, Romero, and Van der Ven, with wing backs as Udogie and Porro, and you put Bentancur next to Bergvall with Kulu and then Son and Solanke, that system would be fantastic.
Yeah. I hear that. I want to go to some of these super chats before we move on slightly, but this here says 3 more L's and then you are in a relegation battle. I mean, 2 more L's and they could be in the relegation zone, bruv. Like literally in the zone, my G. Up and coming at 23, lol, Jesse Lingard syndrome. I hear you on that. Porro, hell no, especially after yesterday. Yeah, I want better than Porro personally. I think he's good, but I want better than him. We'll come back to the Chelsea talk. That's literally what we're going on to next. This is back Garnacho. It says, okay, Garnacho has got pace, decent football brain in the EPL, by the way. Trust me, if he plays for Arsenal, he will be better than Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
They're as bad as each other, man.
I wouldn't swap Martinelli for him. So yeah, I mean, they could be as bad as each other. No, I hear you on that. I really do.
You would take Martinelli at Man United?
Not really.
I wouldn't. No. If you said to me now, Terry, we'll swap the 2 players over, I don't see a hugely significant jump. So no,
I don't think either would do it.
Okay, so you agree with me? Stop getting all funny. You agree with me? You wouldn't do a swap either.
I think Martinelli is a better player. He's obviously.
Yeah. But not,
but it's slightly.
It's like again.
I think it's only because he has more experience.
I've got a 1-inch penis. Oh, I've got a 1.2 inch penis. He's had that one
season.
Let's not do that. Martinelli scored 15 goals in the Premier League.
Let's not do that. You know, Garnacho scored a goal in an FA Cup win. Do you know what I mean? It's there. Do you know what I mean? It's
bro. Don't die on the Martinelli shit, bro. Don't.
Yeah. I'm only winding you up. Speaking of Chelsea, though, Dan, no win in 5. What's going wrong, and will you turn it round this weekend against Wolves?
Hopefully. I've been saying that, though. We played worse teams than Wolves, I think, in this spell, and we haven't. So I actually don't know. We've looked at times good enough. I think in the first half against Bournemouth, we played some good football, but second half, obviously, we didn't take our chances. Momentum shifted. I think Mersca probably tactically wasn't on it as much as some people just keep blaming Jackson. I think Mersca has to have some of the blame in recent weeks because any manager that goes 5 games without a win is not doing a good enough job. So hopefully we do, but it's sort of come out of nowhere, to be honest. I just didn't really see Chelsea falling into this sort of rut and not being able to get out of it. I thought we'd sort of left that behind last season.
But why?
And can I ask you something?
What? No, hold on. What? Why?
What do you mean? Why?
I want to know why. Because
I think you did this last week, couldn't they?
No. The reason why I'm asking you why you didn't see any of this.
Yeah, you said the same thing last week.
Hold on. Because it was a new manager in a young squad, and you didn't believe that there was a possibility that if they had one bad result, it could follow. Like I don't know, like why? How couldn't you see?
No,
that?
because actually at the end of last season, like for example, when we lost to Arsenal 5-0 away, we actually then still pushed on to move up the table after that. But earlier on in that season under Poch, we didn't. We would lose and then we'd go into a rut and not be able to get out of it and sort of spiral out of control. This season, even under Mersca, we've lost a couple of games. We lost to Liverpool. We lost to Man City first game of the season. And we still kept correcting ourselves when mistakes were made. And then this time round, obviously, after we lost to Fulham, I think it was, I think from that moment on, we've not corrected mistakes that have been made. And the players have dropped out of form. And it's just a bit of a vicious circle at the moment for Chelsea.
So
who do you
put
got a
mostly
question
on
about?
players
I
or the
don't
manager?
watch a lot of Chelsea. I tried to this year just because I was going to try and see how Sancho was going to do, and I saw a few games. But I do have a question about and this is just me being a little curious about the situation. I was told Jadon Sancho was going to be the guy, and I'm genuinely asking, how has he been in this 5-game streak? Because I told a lot of Chelsea fans that this is what he kind of does. He looks really good when he lands. He's pumped. He's motivated. He kills it. And then you see the whole motivation drop, and that happens on the pitch. And then he starts being the player that, in my opinion, isn't good enough to be a star on a top Premier League side. But I could be wrong. So I'm asking the question.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. I think he's been absolutely fine. I actually don't think Jadon Sancho
fine or top.
No, he's been
you
good
see
enough.
You saw the word that he
level
used,
above some of
Cam,
the other
right?
players.
He's been fine. He used that strategically.
No, you two have an
Dan is very
agenda against
strategic.
Sancho. I think you need to drop it.
I don't have an
now,
agenda.
if you use the
There's
evidence
no
that's
agenda.
there,
We asked you how he did it.
No, but Dan is right. Sancho's been good.
Fine.
Yeah,
He's
but
fine.
if you use
He
the
said
evidence
fine. I gave him an
that is
opportunity
there
to say
on the pitch.
Literally.
Guys, just give it a second. Let me respond. Yeah, if you use the evidence that is there from this season at Chelsea, your points sound so ridiculously stupid. I'm going to leave it at that. Because Sancho is not the issue at Chelsea. He's been a level above a number of players. You're doing too much. There are far more issues at Chelsea that are causing Chelsea issues than Jadon Sancho.
So then you
Dan, hold on, Cam. I just want to know what
Let's
issues that Cam raised that were too much just now. Because I missed it. What issues did Cam?
Because you did the same thing last week.
I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about right now.
Okay, right now,
nothing's
changed. Sancho is still performing to a level I think is acceptable to be playing for Chelsea in the Premier League.
Acceptable.
So why is your back against?
Okay, so here's the thing.
You
just said two things there. And again, I was
acceptable and fine, and I think Sancho is playing at a level that is above where the majority of the squad have been. And acceptable and fine for me is good enough to be competing for Champions League places at Chelsea. And I think Sancho's quality on the pitch right now shows he's capable of doing that.
And he's been one of your best left wingers.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see him losing that spot.
If you're making fun of Sancho, he's not been an issue at all.
I don't know what I said, bro. I didn't say anything on this show.
Go on, Henry.
Do you think that if these results continue, Chelsea will regret sacking Pochettino?
Nah. No, they might regret hiring Mersca.
I want to follow up with that. At the moment, you are 3 points off of 8th. If Wolves, is the game at Stamford Bridge or is it at Molineux?
I think it's away. Could be.
It's Stamford Bridge. Stamford Bridge.
Okay, so if Wolves get a positive result, which they could do, and teams around you win, you could drop to 6th or 7th. How many points did Pochettino finish on? Because I don't think at this moment in time you'll beat. What is it? 71.
Yeah. Let me answer for you, right? Because I hear what you're saying, that there is a chance that Pochettino could in fact end up with a better points tally than what Mersca's got if this form sort of carries on. I just think Pochettino had to go realistically after how long it took for him to get to a level that was probably okay. And I think he just clashed with everything the sporting directors wanted to do. And I think the relationship had ultimately broken down. So they had to move him on. I think the better question to put would be, will they regret hiring Mersca? Because I think if it doesn't improve from last season, then yes, I actually think that they might regret that, because I'm not sure whether or not this is what everyone was saying about Mersca before he come in, that he could drop off in the middle of the season. He could throw away a certain amount of points in the season. He's capable of doing that. He is inexperienced. He is potentially a championship level manager. There's no proof to back it up. He's been poor at Parma And actually, all those things now, when we're in a rut, and it's not entirely on him. And I actually sort of back him at the moment to turn it around because he's learnt from his mistakes before. But he's also got players out of form at the same time. And defensively, I still think there are issues. They have to be addressed. And I think it's too early to jump on that right now and start suggesting that he should leave. And there has been a mistake in recruiting him.
Dan,
I think we'll know in 10 games' time.
What are the fans saying, Dan? Sorry, Egal, I'll come to you next, Egal. So what are the fans saying? Because let's just drop the sort of Poch in brigade are now really piping up, which I just don't think is constructive in any way, shape. As you said, there's more than one reason.
Poch was finished. I think it was done.
No, yeah, exactly. And Poch, as you said, irrespective of points totals, the relationship with the board, relationship with what you're trying to build is an important factor. So if you drop those fans out, what are others saying? What are the kind of majority in the middle saying about Mersca? Is there a fear that maybe that collapse that Leicester suffered last season is on him? Or is it just a case of, well, this is a young squad and a young manager, and you'll think he's going to turn it around? What's the gut feeling of Chelsea fans right now?
I actually think the loudest noise I've heard from Chelsea fans right now is actually towards the sporting directors. And I think in the last few days, since the mess with Trevoh Chalobah obviously being recalled and the issues that are sort of looking like they're still there after $1.5 billion's been spent, I think the light is starting to be shone on the sporting directors that maybe they aren't necessarily doing a good enough job. They decided to hire 4 managers, 5 managers. All of those managers, even up until Mersca, have yet to prove themselves, yet to be good enough. They are the ones that have decided to spend that much money and fail to show a direction that the club is ultimately wanting to head in because it's just a chaotic, scattergun approach. No one really has an idea of what it means when a player joins Chelsea anymore. They don't know if that player is going to be cemented. They don't know if that player is going to be moved on for profit. And I think people are getting fed up with that. And I genuinely think that the sporting directors are the ones who are coming under the most sort of pressure right now. I think Mersca, yes, there are question marks because he is still a young and inexperienced manager, but I actually back him to turn it around. I think it's so early for him to be in this position in his career, to be the manager of Chelsea with the pressure of £1 billion being spent on the squad you're managing is incredibly high. And he's literally, a year and a half, 2 years into his managerial career. So I think it's really early for someone to be in that position. And I also think the club itself hasn't put itself in the best position in recent years to demand what it used to be able to demand. So I think people are saying, what's going on with the sporting directors? Why is that now the case? Because the owners don't know anything about football, and the people they bought in to trust on their opinions about football don't seem to know how to convert that into success.
I get that, Dan. Again, I want to throw that point to you because you're someone, and this isn't to try and dig or catch you out. This is just our minds change when information changes. I remember at the start of the season, you were very much actually, I now see the vision of Chelsea. I now see what they were trying to do. Do you stand by that? Or do you think maybe you went too early on it? Do you feel that this is just a blip and actually they are still heading in the right direction? It's just a, horrible period of form they're going through? Or do you think there could be a deeper, wider issue at the club and with the squad?
No, I still stand by what I said. I think Chelsea still headed in the right direction. As somebody who is not a Chelsea fan and looking from the outside looking in, it's very predictable that they're going to have a tough spell throughout the season. They have a young squad. They have a striker who they don't fully trust in, and he had a good start to the season. He's now a little bit regressed. They have a whole team of players who haven't played too many seasons together. And once you have a bigger sample size, teams are going to have a better way to defend them. I don't think Chelsea are finished or anything like that, and some of these players are not good enough. I just think they've slightly have more of a sample size and a way to catch them out than they did before, where it was a little bit like teams were not respecting them as much. Teams were playing a little less defensive against them. And now that you're seeing teams respecting them more, playing more defensive, playing more calculated, they're getting better results. And it's on the manager now. It's not necessarily on the squad. I'm saying the manager needs to be able to use his substitutes better. And I don't think he trusts his squad fully. Hence why he's not going and making substitutions until the 50th, 60th, 70th minute at times. And you have other managers, their substitutes are coming on, scoring winners, getting equalizers, making a difference. And that's where Chelsea, it doesn't make sense for a manager who trusts his squad to play in a whole nother tournament, but in the Premier League is not even willing to put them on if the game needs to be changed. So it's on Mersca. I need to see more from him. And overall, I think Chelsea, they have the ambition where they're going to go and address their striker situation, their midfield, their attack, wherever they need to do in the summer. So I still believe they're heading in the right direction. It's just maybe this January, they're going to be a little bit more risk adverse and not make any signings.
Dan, what did you think of Trevoh Chalobah coming back?
Oh, I think it's an absolute joke, to be honest with you, because they already decided that he wasn't going to be suited to Mersca's system, already decided that he wasn't going to be considered good enough for where Chelsea were at, and they wanted to move him on, obviously for clear profit, but no one wanted to put up the money, so they had to end up with a loan deal. They banished him, obviously, and then they've gone back, crawling back to him 6 months later.
Didn't they make him train with Chilwell?
Yeah, in a completely banished group with Chukwuemeka and a number of other players. I think Conor Gallagher was part of that. They then obviously have gone back to him, asked him to come back, and then the rumour still is that they basically made him aware that this is just putting him back in the shop window again for 6 months, and he'll cover whilst we're in desperate need of a centre back because we've signed too many players that we have to rely on, but they're injury prone.
So, you're gonna let Disasi leave also?
Yeah, apparently Disasi, apparently Vega. So we could see obviously the departure of, who else? Someone else I think was being linked.
Wasn't there an option to buy
3 defenders?
Wasn't there an option to buy in his contract at Palace though?
I'm not sure, and it wouldn't even surprise me if he actually got a move back to Palace in the summer. Would not surprise me at all.
Don't get me wrong, Chalobah's not.
You guys did them dirty because he was starting for them.
Yeah, I agree, and if Trevoh comes back or gets injured, touch wood he doesn't, or it doesn't go to plan, I think he'll be incredibly frustrated that he's given him a second chance when they've already treated him honestly how they have is just unbelievable. Yeah. I wouldn't have gone back if I was Trevoh.
Definitely not the way they treated him. That's crazy. But yeah, Dan, are you in agreement that even if Mersca is to finish 6th this season, you should still give him till next year?
No, their fans are never going to do that.
That's
no,
crazy.
I'm not asking Dan. I'm not asking you. I'm asking
Sixth.
I don't think sixth is, to be honest, I don't think it's acceptable. I probably would probably say that he might be out of his depth, but for me, I don't trust the sporting directors to go and get someone else. I think ultimately some time is needed to start to assess what is actually going on at Chelsea. We need a bit of patience. We need to assess what level the squad is at, what level players are at, where this team want to go with what system, and then recruit the players to fit in. I think if they sack Mersca, who's on a 5-year contract, it just shows they're not really sure of what way they want the club to head in.
Thank you.
So,
or you could say
I don't know.
That was what I was getting at, Dan. Basically,
I don't think 6th would be acceptable, and I don't think it's good enough. And it would put him in a very dangerous position. I think we've seen.
What if he doesn't win the conference?
A certain manager needs time to fix this. Someone needs time to fix this. It's not a change every season, law of averages, see what happens.
No, because the squad isn't. You could do that with Chelsea's squad 15 years ago when it was a team built of winners that could literally coach themselves to results. They did that. They got to Champions League finals pretty much on their own. I don't think that's what this team is now. This team is young and experienced and needs guidance from I think, an experienced manager, which they don't currently have. So now they've got an inexperienced manager learning how to guide an inexperienced squad. And that's just going to take even longer. And we'll just have to see how it develops.
Yeah, viewers, give us your thoughts, feelings, opinions on that. The comment here says, Terry, did you speak about Chelsea paying a fine for the Roman secret payments? But we haven't discussed it, but yeah, it does appear that Chelsea are going to be given the opportunity to pay a big fine as opposed to a points deduction. I don't think anyone's surprised because what they did is like most walks of life. They've found it themselves. They've grasped themselves up. It's under new ownership. They've completely cooperated. They've opened up their books. And I think the Premier League is just going to turn around and say, well, thank you for being so honest to the new owners. And yeah, let's see what the size of the fine is, first of all. But I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. It's like anything in life. If you hand yourself in and plead guilty, you get a much lighter sentence than somebody that goes on the run for 13 years and then doesn't cooperate and then is found guilty. Like the punishment was never going to be the same. And isn't it mad, right? Let's just paint a scenario here. Say Chelsea get an £8 million fine. Boom, done. Let's say City, hypothetical. So City fans, please don't cry. Say they're found guilty of all the serious charges, but then in the sort of sentencing, it's basically said that if they'd have cooperated and been honest, then they've got like a £10 million fine. That's what's crazy about it. Like, the different approaches and what can end up happening. But no, it's not going to be it can't be a bloody 10K fine, someone says. But Chelsea's midfield is hilariously wide. What about Eric Ten Hag coming in?
Wide? I don't get. What do you mean by wide?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
I think it means wide open, easy to run through.
No, I could. In terms of where Enzo Fernandez was occupying on the pitch the other day, I can see what he means. But no, Ten Hag is just not in the conversation, is he?
No, and his midfield was the most
maybe at Spurs,
in like the last that's a crazy to say go get Ten Hag just shore up.
Ten Hag to Spurs is a good shout every day.
He's gonna go Dortmund, I think, to be fair. Thank you, Egal. I know you got to shoot, mate, but I'll chat to you again soon. Thanks, brother.
Listen, I'm upset we didn't get to speak about Spurs and some Derby, but fair enough.
Yeah, hour and 25 minutes. It's a hard one. You could have brought it up in the Spurs section. That was the moment. That was the moment.
I know. But hey, we're gonna win this weekend, and hopefully we keep catching Liverpool, guys. I'm out of here. Peace.
I hear that. Speaking of Arsenal, big news today, and there's been water thrown over it, and we're going to go through both sides of this. But there's a big report earlier today that Arsenal are in talks with RB Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko. It says that Arsenal want to sign him on a loan with an obligation to buy. David Ornstein has said that Sesko is not expected to move because Leipzig have no intention of selling him, which I think's fair. They don't want to sell him. Why would they? He hasn't said Arsenal not talking to them, though, which is interesting. Reports in Germany say it's wide of the mark. There's other reports in England that say that Arsenal are starting to push. Kunle, do you see this one happening? And if so, is he the right player for Arsenal at this point?
To be honest, for the words that he used when they kind of refused to let him go in summer, I don't see it happening in January. I don't think that doesn't stop us from going back in the summer. But for Sesko in particular, with the contract signed, I don't see it. But you asked me if it happens, would I be excited? I mean, I was umming and ahhing earlier, but then I started to ask myself, if Sesko was in the same place as Havertz over the last few games, would he have scored every one of them? And yes, but I also say there's so many other strikers, not even that level, that would have scored those goals too. So am I just settling, or this is actually the player I want? So it's a weird one. It's a real weird one. I'd take him because he'd immediately be the best 9 at the club. Is that the 9 that's strong enough to get us through to win the title potentially? I don't know, but he improves us 100%.
Arsenal are not serious if you don't. Like this is the crazy thing for me, because I was a big Sesko fan before we went and got Rasmus Højlund. I wanted him at our club, and then I realized we weren't good enough to attract a talent that good. That's basically what I resigned myself to. I'm like, he's too good for us right now. He's not even going to look our way. He's going to go develop. He has no reason to come here. I think if you're having talks about a loan and all these things, we are looking at Isak 2.0. We're looking at Isak 2.0 when you should have bought him when you had the chance. You had the money. They would have sold. This is the same situation. RB Leipzig will straight up sell if you put enough money down. No problem. They definitely will if the player wants to go.
What's enough money for someone?
So for me, I don't care what enough money is.
What do you reckon though?
For me, like 70 million probably be enough.
I think Sesko.
I think 50.
Are you saying he's worth that money, Cam?
Serious?
Is he worth that? I'm not debating it, but is he worth that?
Isak wasn't worth that when that number was quoted for him. At some point, you have to have vision and you have to take a risk to actually make your team get over the line. You didn't take it with Isak. You have another opportunity with a young up-and-coming striker who absolutely improves your team, who scores the goals you needed to score to be in the title race. You go and spend the money. And if it doesn't work out, at very least, you will be able to say, our team in a time of when we needed to go for it, went after a player who has a very good profile, who scores goals. That's what you do. You go and find it. If it's not him, find another striker. At the end of the day, I'm Dr. Stranging you again. I told you 1-1 pens. You said, oh man, how's that going to happen? I'm doing it again. If you guys don't go.
You got that one spot on.
Yeah, I got that spot on, bro. You're like, how many? Oh, lots of ways, Cam? Yeah, lots of ways. Is you missing a bunch of chances, us keeping it dirty.
We don't need to go back there.
But no, we do, because I personally wanted to say that to you, and I'm using this opportunity as it's the Arsenal side. I've been quiet. I'm just also weaving it into this conversation because the fact is,
I respect it.
If you don't go and get a striker, people like Sesko ain't got no tech and all that. Who cares? The rest of your players around him do. You create.
Yeah, but it's a big gamble though. It's a massive gamble.
You have to sometimes take these gambles.
Yeah,
like
Cam, I hear what you're saying in terms of we have to sign a 9 this window.
So, a 9.
We've got to sign a 9.
If it's Sesko, then so be it. But we can't end this window not signing a 9. Do I think he's necessarily the one? I don't know. But do I think he improves us?
I'll use my same logic across the board. If it's Gyökeres, who I don't want you to get because I want him, and you have to spend 70, 80, go do it. If it's Duran and you have to spend 70, 80, go do it. If it's Victor Osimhen and you have to spend 50 or 60, go do it. If you do not go and do it, you're going to be in the same situation you are the summer. You're going to say he's too expensive. There's too many players, too many teams in for him. We're not going to do it. We're Arsenal. We're not being held for ransom. And you're going to be at square one next year.
The problem is, though, is Benjamin Sesko isn't the number 1 goal scorer at Leipzig, and he is young and will need time to adapt to the Premier League. Arsenal aren't in a position right now where they can allow someone time. They need someone to come in and hit the ground running.
That is fair, and I think that's a really good point. So my question to you is then, Henry, and it has to be realistic. Interestingly, looking at Alexander Isak, who I do think technically on the ball is better, at the same age when he was in Spain, he scored 17 goals in the entirety of the season across all comps. Benjamin Sesko this season is already on 13 goals, 3 of which are in the Champions League. I'm not saying he's going to become as good as Alexander Isak. I don't think he will be. However, some will say, no, he's not worth the 55, 60 million now. But in 4 or 5 years' time, he might be a £120 million player that you didn't get. If Arsenal would have put that money into Isak when they should have done, the situation, they wouldn't need another striker now. So the question I have for you, Henry, is you're saying Arsenal shouldn't go for something that's raw and needs nurturing, but who is the ready-made star who is going to cost you 40, 50, 60, 70 million more than Benjamin Sesko, who's going to outperform him by that number?
The only 2 players that I think would come in and significantly improve that team who are realistic is my number 1. If I was an Arsenal fan, I would look at Osimhen. I think he's done it in France. He's performed really well in Turkey. He's won a Scudetto with Napoli. He's got a good record in Europe, and he has won a league title. And then I'd look at Gyökeres. I think Sesko is
rubbish.
He's 21 years of age, who has got the potential to be the next Alexander Isak, but it could also go the other way. The other 2 strikers, Gyökeres has done it in the Championship. And people say, but it's only the Championship. It's still a very physical league. He's also got a good record in the Champions League. And his record for Sporting is absolutely insane. But Osimhen, the fact that Napoli actively want to sell this guy this window all the summer, and he's sitting there, right, at a club like, he's taken a 60% pay cut to play at Galatasaray, who is a pedigree top 3 number 9s in Europe right now. And he's just, no one's going for him. If I looking at what Arsenal need, the amount of chances they create, Osimhen would come in between now and the summer and bag minimum of 15 goals.
I have a question of what you just brought up there when we talk about players and what he may not be ready, this, that, and the other. Again, I'll go back to the fact that he would have scored a lot of the goals chances that they missed. He would have. But my point is, does Arsenal not need more than, at this stage, can we not look at the Arsenal team and say, maybe 2 9s would be good? You know, maybe if he's such a prospect,
you're pushing it, bro.
If
he's such a prospect and he comes in and he helps you win do what you need to do this year, but you still see he's raw and could be better coming off the bench. At that point, you have the summer to go, now we'll go get Victor Osimhen, and you now have literally 2 strikers, one to learn from the other. You're now set to go on and challenge. We know you can't just challenge with one player. Look what just happened with City. They got rid of Alvarez.
Yeah,
Alvarez,
and that is where I think you again. Let's just. Sometimes it's hard to have these conversations when you mention the player's name, because people start getting subjective about it. I don't like him. I like him. But if we just look at yours as the premise, Arsenal probably should have 2 strikers of that sort of age profile and that sort of differential in experience and quality, because then you're not relying on Gabriel Jesus. You're not going, Martinelli's got to go up there now. You're saying, if Osimhen ain't delivering, It's Sesko as an example, and maybe that's what you need. Again, that's probably something along those lines. Now you could demand it's the players you like, so that's where you can get subjective with it. But if Arsenal, in my belief, if Arsenal's striking partnership this year, in terms of they start together or one on the bench, was Osimhen and Sesko, Arsenal right now are top of the league. They knock Man United out of the FA Cup comfortably. And that's why I've seen a lot of talk about Arteta's got to go, and I understand a lot of the rationale behind it. At the same time, I look at your team and think you're a couple of players away this season from winning the league. Do you start to undo everything to fix a couple of little problems? Maybe if you think the issues are deeper rooted. On the stories, a lot of people saying Terry Ornstein said it isn't happening. It's not what Ornstein has said. He said it's unlikely that the move isn't to happen. Do you know what I find really funny about football fans? When the Daily Mail broke the news about Zubimendi, and then a lot of the story, not all the detail, but a lot of the story was then backed up by the Ornsteins and the Fabrizios. People that hate Arsenal, or Arsenal fans that hate their own club, are like, it's bullshit, they're liars. They're the same people now saying Sesko ain't coming because Ornstein said so. So which is it? Is Ornstein a bullshitter, or is he telling the truth? Both. I mean, maybe they can both be true at the same time, depending on the circumstance. I've got a feeling, though. Do you know what my gut feeling is about the deal? Forget the player. I think it's someone else you're looking at. I almost get this sense. I think Ornstein is
distraction tactic.
Yeah, a little bit. I know people like to use words like smoke screen. I feel like you are looking at someone. I can't imagine that you are not looking at a good quality attacker right now. If you're not,
Brian and Mbeumo.
It might be Brian and Mbeumo. It could be. I think they're looking at something. They've got to be looking at someone. I'm just not personally sure if it's Sesko, even though the news has come out. And listen, Sam that reported on it, I don't know him personally, but I spoke to him on a number of occasions. He knows people. He's obviously been told, but I asked him privately. I said, do you think it will happen? And he said, honestly, I'm told that Arsenal have started to have some conversations, but that's all I know at this point. And that is all he said, by the way. He didn't say it's happening, it's advanced. He just said conversations are there. But
who do you think that they'll bring in?
Chris Wood.
Mate, if I tell you who I think we'll bring in, you'll fall off your chair. I think we'll bring in someone like Moise Kean. That's how crazy my club is. But
well, I'd actually see that, couldn't I? I think you actually show that you know your club so well.
Literally. Moise Kean will try and get us excited like that. What?
Would you take Rashford?
No.
I actually think you should at this point.
And to be honest, and that's not because I think Rashford is bad. I just think he needs a new project. Maybe leaving the UK would be best for him. I just think he's done with this country and the league for now.
Do you think they're a better environment?
On Rashford, sorry, very quickly, we'll go back to your point. I'll come back to you, Henry. You are right about being done with the country, because he has just tweeted or posted a picture and said that he was contacted today, Rashford, by a tabloid who have a picture of him standing with a rapper from about a year ago. Now, I don't know who the rapper is. It's clearly not someone who's world famous, because of what Rashford then goes on to say. Rashford goes on to say that I'm paraphrasing, but I have my picture taken with hundreds of people and I don't refuse because I assume they're fans. I don't know the person. I never socialized with the person. And I wish that the media would spend more time promoting the charities I help than spinning this nonsense. So it sounds to me like it's some rapper who's in trouble somewhere and they've got hold of a picture of... Do you remember when Edison, the City goalkeeper, had the picture with Tommy Robinson, the right-wing political guy? And Edison just assumed it was some random City fan, so he took it. And in that moment, it looks awful, doesn't it? Because you're with that person. But to your point about Rashford, this is why I don't think he should stay in England, because the fact that they're gunning for him like this is crazy. Like, footballers must have their pictures taken with so many random people. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you start going to celebrity parties, you'd probably have loads of pictures taken with. If you were also a big celebrity, I wonder how many times celebrities had photos of others, and then 20 years later, when that person goes to prison, they're like, "Wow, I don't even remember meeting them, let alone having a picture with them." So, yeah, it's crazy for me. Sorry, Henry, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, I just basically saying, I think Rashford in the right environment, I think could be a good asset to Arsenal. Sure. However, there's a lot of things that, Arsenal, his wages, what is he on, around 300k? And it also feels like if Rashford was to go to Arsenal, it kind of be like Arteta saying, well, I've fixed Havertz, Sterling didn't work out. And then it's like, I just can't get my head around why they wouldn't go for Osimhen.
Do you think Rashford's better than Kai Havertz?
Sorry?
Do you think Rashford's better than Kai Havertz?
I don't think he'd be better than Kai Havertz in England right now. I think if he goes abroad, he'd
under the
perform
right
at a
manager.
better rate.
Yeah.
100%.
I agree with that.
100%.
Curious.
I agree. Can I ask you a question, Henry? Though, why there are a lot of detractors of Arsenal and a lot of the Arteta out fans who think the reason he won't go for an Osimhen is because he can't handle big personalities, big characters. Do you think there's any truth in that, Henry?
Yeah, I do. Because everyone they've signed has been from a quote-unquote smaller club. Trossard from Brighton, Rice from West Ham. If Arsenal go out there and sign a player from Barcelona or Real Madrid, I know they got Odegaard from Madrid, but he was not an Odegaard of a Madrid consistently winning Champions Leagues. If they bring in a player of, let's say they go out there and sign an Osimhen who has a pedigree of winning league titles, there's almost a kind of a clash of egos there, like you said. But I do think that there's logic in it, because who have Arsenal gone out and signed that comes in with a winning mentality into that dressing room?
No, but you're talking about I hear what you're saying in terms of big personality, and I agree with it. But it's the same thing with Pep. Pep doesn't deal with big personalities.
Yeah, but when someone comes into the dressing room and they look at Pep, they go, "Hang on, Champions Leagues."
No, but he doesn't deal with big personalities. So that point, I don't think is valid.
I think he does.
None of the
Pep
like
does.
who? Tell me the big personality that came to
Jack
City
Grealish?
or-
Like, I mean, he did win the treble in that year, and he's now trash. But Jack Grealish was a huge personality when he brought him in. Let's be honest. I got to head out,
and he's reduced his whole personality to how he's playing
Cheers,
now.
bro.
That's what I'm saying.
Appreciate it. I'll talk to you
Take it
soon.
easy, Cam. Take it easy.
Cheers. Look, it's going to be an
If Grealish
interesting.
is-
Yeah, sorry, go on, mate.
So if Grealish was the example, I don't think that's the best example to use as Pep dealing with.
What about Haaland?
A big personality? Is he a big personality?
I think Haaland is, yeah.
I think
The whole stay humble
Kyle
thing.
Walker was
Yeah.
as well. I even think even
Kyle
Fab-
Walker from Spurs is a big personality.
No, but look at Haaland, for instance. Haaland comes
Yeah.
in as a pedigree goal scorer. Then you can see just by his sort of stay humble comment.
I'll
he's a
give you an
huge
example.
personality.
I'll give you an example. Ronaldinho at Barca, he got rid of him straight.
No,
Enzo,
that's
big
different. That's a
personality.
different.
Enzo,
No, that's
Ibrahimovic, the same stuff.
no.
bro.
They're different types.
I'm just giving you the personalities that he wasn't able to deal with, because we're talking about big personalities, right? The players you're bringing to the light are Grealish and Haaland. They're not big personalities in my eyes. Haaland is a boring striker.
what
who was
player
built in
nowadays-
it was built in a lab.
What player nowadays would you say is a big personality in the Premier League?
In the Premier League, like I think Mo Salah is quite a big personality. I think.
Nah.
I would say a big personality is Vinny Junior. If we're looking out of the Premier League,
I think he's ready to call out the manager in the dressing room and training sessions. I think Mo Salah is the player that could do that, which is why he had some clashes with Klopp. He's that type of player.
I would say the first personality that comes to mind, I think, has a massive ego, not in the Premier League, is someone like Vinny Junior. Now, I think very few coaches in the world could coach Vinny Junior, because he walks in and goes, "I just win Champions Leagues, mate." I don't look at anyone really in the Premier League. Haaland, Salah maybe, but there isn't really anyone in the league at the moment. I would say Cole Palmer is a bigger personality.
Nah, don't do that.
No, because I
he's
think
got
Cole
no
Palmer.
personality, bro. He's just he's a great footballer.
No, but
I don't know
He's
what
got
to do,
zero
because
personality, bro. He's got a great footballer.
I think we're not sure on each other's side of the argument here. I don't think we know exactly what we mean by personality.
Yes,
Because I think Henry's throwing things. I think Cole Palmer is a huge personality. Cole Palmer literally wants to walk out of Stamford Bridge with no security and be absolutely smothered by the fans. He does it after every match day. Cole Palmer loves the attention and the stuff that's coming, the fame that's coming with it, but he's also performing and just keeps himself to himself in terms of the dressing room. I think academies have done a good job at removing that type of ego from players so that the manager has the overall say on what's going on now. I don't think that type of player, like a Ronaldinho and a Zlatan, I don't think that exists as much as it used to maybe 10, 15 years ago. I just don't think that type of player exists anymore in the English game. I don't see it.
Which is why that the personality thing about Arteta, I think it'd be less of an issue now than if that's the case then, no?
I'll be honest, with Arsenal, I actually just think Arsenal believe their squad is currently good enough for where they see the club being. I don't think there's this alarming sense of needing, maybe with the injuries, it's probably sort of jumped up a little bit, but before the injuries, I don't think there was an alarming want for you to go and recruit a number 9. I don't think there's
Jesus' injury has forced them to act.
I think maybe a little bit, but if you still waited until the summer, even with Jesus' injury, I wouldn't be shocked. I think Arsenal are more content with where, like, the actual squad. No, sorry, the actual sporting directors and the manager. I know the sporting director's gone now, but whoever sort of stepped into that role right now, I think they're quite content. I don't think they feel as desperate as what the fan base do to go and recruit.
The reason why I was with you up until, like, when Saka got injured, I was like, I'm not 100% sure they'll do something. But then Wanyeri got injured, and then Jesus got injured, and Havertz's form is off. So
it's just forced their hand.
I think they kind of been forced now because of that. Jesus is out for the season.
Okay, but these clubs now are under such strict regulations in terms of finances that they can't go and panic and react and buy someone that isn't perfect in their eyes, because if they do and it doesn't work, they put themselves into a limited position for the next season, the season after that, because of the consequences of PSR. So I don't think if they don't feel that Sesko is the right person, or they don't feel Osimhen is the right type of personality to come to the dressing room, I genuinely don't think they'll go and do it. And I don't think Arsenal are the only club, by the way, Connie. I think there's a number of teams that won't go and act. Like Chelsea have had their hands forced defensively, and I think they probably hate the fact they've had to recall Trevoh Chalobah, but they had to. And I think if Arsenal had someone they could recall or something like that, they might. But I just don't think they feel the sense of desperation that the fans do, because I think the fans want to win and believe and can see the issues in the squad. I'm not sure that these sporting directors will go and vocally say to the owners, we've got an issue in our squad. Because if they go and do that, the owner will turn around and say, you've had 700 million, you've had $1 billion. Why are you not doing your job properly and building the squad so we don't have these issues when they arise?
And
why,
to be honest,
why
Dan,
in your job,
Dan,
why
Dan,
would you go to your
Dan,
boss and say, I'm not doing a good enough job?
Dan, and I said this a couple of weeks ago. You're spot on in terms of, I don't think 5 years in, Arteta should be relying on any January window to save this season, bro. Personally, but we're here now, isn't it? We're currently here now, and we've got 2 major injuries. I don't believe we'll try and sign Osimhen. I have my reasons, but I think the Sesko stuff with the bids going in, the fact that we tried to sign him in summer, I think there's some life in that. It's a player that we're interested in, so someone that's the profile that the club wants. So in terms of pushing for someone like that, maybe. But I think we'll get someone in. But
yeah,
guys, Arsenal fans, Moise Kean loaded.
You mentioned that Salah quickly. Last story before the end of the show. There's talk of a £65 million offer being made for him to sign a pre-agreement to go to Saudi. A lot of talk that the negotiations have again stalled. It sounds very likely that Trent's going to go. More positive around Van Dijk that he has agreed something new, but we're hearing absorbent amounts of money is being offered by PSG's. I think it's something like £32.5 million a year to go to Saudi. What are Liverpool doing here? How are they still? How are we now halfway through January, and their greatest ever Premier League player, who is the only reason I think they're top of the Premier League right now? I know Gravenberch's been great, Van Dijk has been great, but without his goals and his consistency for the majority of the season, I don't think they'd be 4 points clear. What are they doing, Dan, by not getting this deal done and over the line? I mean, does it feel to you like it isn't going to happen at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it's happening. I think it's got too far. I think when it enters this 6-month stage and other clubs can start coming in and putting stupid money on the table, I think it becomes very, very difficult to look at that money and turn it down no matter who you are. And I think when the Arab clubs can, like, they look at Salah as like the top dog for an Arab footballer to come in and like absolutely be the poster star for that competition, they're going to put serious money down. And I just think Salah would be crazy to not even look at that, with the fact that Liverpool won't even cough up probably an extra $100,000 a week for a year longer than they want to with Salah. And I think we're talking about, in Liverpool's eyes, a pretty minimal extension. Whereas what they're going to lose for having to replace Salah, goals, I think Liverpool are making a mistake letting him go, is basically what I'm saying there. I don't think it will get done. And I think he'll go somewhere where the money is obviously absolutely unbelievable, or he is guaranteed to win a trophy. Because I still think there are a number of clubs in European football that look at Salah and think we could pay a stupid amount of money for 2 seasons, have possibly the best right winger in the world.
I agree. I think it wouldn't even surprise me if a Madrid come in and get him.
Yeah, no, honestly, Madrid, someone like that.
But
PSG,
obviously.
Can you honestly see Salah at Madrid?
I see him at Barca. I can see what
Barca
Barcelona
more so. I don't know about Madrid.
Now, Barca can't afford him. I don't think. I
yeah,
just
but this
don't think they can
the
'cause of
narrative
the
that
mess.
Barca are broke, like
They are though. They're getting very close because
Yeah, they
obviously
are
what
close,
they've
but
had
they're not
they had to
like-
go to a court higher than something in Spain to get this Dani Olmo and one other player approved to be able to play for them because they missed the deadline by one day because they got a sale.
You sometimes just feel Barca always find some kind of loophole.
what I'm
I don't know
saying.
how they do it
but
every year,
all right,
bro.
they do. Yeah, all right, and
signed so many
Chelsea do
players.
as well. And these owners are smart and they find loopholes and they have the best in the business to do it.
They're
But
selling their own grass.
no. Barcelona are not in the position that some of the other teams in Europe are. They're just not. They're having to sell stuff before it even exists, rights and boxes and things like that in the new stadium to generate this. They're not. But I think I could see him at a Real Madrid. PSG potentially if they're going to go all in and try and rebuild again to just keep that project going. Obviously, one of the top clubs in Saudi. I think that's where you're looking at.
Yeah, it's crazy what they're doing for me. I understand his age and I don't want to give him too long, but the other clubs that he's talking to are looking at 2 to 3 years. So if they're all willing to do it, they should. And it is a little risk. Yes, if he's 32, 33 and he does an ACL, that's problematic because of the amount of money that he's on. But I'm sure there's I just don't see them.
Neymar's done it in Saudi, Terry. He's what he played.
No,
10
exactly.
games, 20 games. They don't care.
I agree. But in fact, Neymar's different though, right? He had the injury, but Neymar's always been a player who I think loves football. But the fact that he was injured pretty much every February, there was a story in that, right? Mo Salah, I think, is a different individual. You know, Neymar, that's probably what stopped Neymar getting to the Messi and Ronaldo level is that those two gentlemen just had a different level of dedication to the game. And I think Mo Salah, he's not as talented as Ronaldo. He's not as talented as Messi. But what he does, he's very talented, by the way. I'm just sort of nitpicking amongst greats here. But he has that work ethic. He looks in such great shape. He doesn't drink for multiple reasons. One, being an athlete. Two, it's his religion. So you don't have to worry about anything along those lines. I think it's a risk, but it's one that I think Liverpool should be taking. The only way this doesn't end up blowing up in Liverpool's face is say they replace him with a Bowen, okay, and bear with me, or an Mbomo, and then centrally they bring in an Isak. Centrally they bring in a Gyökeres and they start scoring goals. If Liverpool don't give him a new deal, the moves to replace him, both positionally and then somebody for the goals, has to be so accurate. Otherwise, it could get very toxic very, very quickly. And that's the only way through it. But the crazy part about it is you could actually... I use Isak as an example, but I'm talking at level. What he cost you in transfer fee and then what he'll cost you in salary. Imagine someone like that comes in and then only scoring 20 goals a season. Then suddenly you're sitting there and Mo Salah's at PSG scoring 40, 50 goals a season for 2 or 3 years. They've really got to get it right. And I do get it's in a gamble. It's a gamble because of his age, but they should be taking it, in my opinion.
Yeah, Terry, I personally think Salah needs to retire at Liverpool, and they should be doing everything they can to help that happen. Even if in this last season he's only playing 25 games or whatever, just let him retire at Liverpool, because the only way Liverpool don't suffer from this Salah, if he goes this summer, they're screwed. If they maybe signed his replacement in summer, where he gets a year working understudy to Mo Salah, then I think they'd be in a better situation this coming summer. But they haven't done that. So they're going to find someone fresh, and I think it's going to be a big mistake to try and replace that number of goals in the summer.
I hear that.
One last thing I'll say, because I know you want to quickly wrap up, is they have got one of the best footballing brains trying to make all these decisions. There's no way that Edwards and the Hughes guy they brought in is going to not have a backup plan here.
No, I understand. No, I do understand that. The problem is that it's replacing those numbers. It's the numbers, and that costs money. So it'll be intriguing to see. How long has Osimhen been crying for a move and no big club? I will say that I've got to have the same energy. I like Osimhen. Now, like I said before, I like Maddison, right? I like Bissouma. That's my only fear, is that even though when Napoli was saying, look, we'll let him go for 60 odd, the fact no one went in for him of any real note.
Well, Chelsea did.
Did you? Yeah.
But we wouldn't pay. We wouldn't pay him.
He didn't go all in.
You lot didn't think he was worth more than $100,000 a week. That's why he said no, right? And I know
and you
have
know
a
why
wage
this
structure,
is my theory, Terry. This is my theory about that because I talked about it at the start of the season. I said a Niger boy in London with 300k a week. Wahala. I'm
I'll allow
telling you.
I'll take your word for it,
You
brother.
speak
You know,
French
you'll
again?
know.
Couldn't
I'm
is that
telling you
French?
because
Speak your French again.
yeah.
No, listen, I hear that, and I think there's something in it if no one is willing to prepare to take what they perceive to be a risk. But I hear that. Look, everyone who's tuned in, I want to say a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Thanks to all of my super chatters. Thanks to everyone who's hit the like button. We're back later tonight after Man United have the huge, now biting clash against Southampton. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.